Canada will achieve NATO's 2% of GDP target this year.
The nature of our alliance is changing, the expectations within those alliances, but also our expectation for what we need to do to protect Canada.
The minister warned of a new imperialism threatening the world. Mark Carney says more military spending is needed to help protect Canada from multiplying threats.
They have a very small military. They rely on our military. We basically protect Canada.
Ottawa says it will now spend billions more so it can meet that 2% NATO spending target.
Donald Trump just dropped a bombshell. He demanded $25 billion from Canada to fund America's defense. But instead of backing down, Canada said one word: no. Factories in the US are already bracing for disruption. Workers fear layoffs, and prices on cars, gadgets, and even power bills are climbing. This isn't just politics, it's a ripple spreading through everyday life. And the big question is, if Canada, America's closest ally, can push back so boldly, who's next? Today we'll break down what happened, why it matters, and how this standoff could shake the world far beyond North America. The story begins with one of the boldest moves we've seen in modern US-Canada relations. Donald Trump didn't ask, he demanded $25 billion to cover America's defense costs, not as a negotiation, not as a discussion, but as a bill Canada had to pay if it wanted continued protection. To put that in perspective, Trump has long accused allies of freeloading, but this was next level audacity. Back in 2018, he hit Canadian steel and aluminum with tariffs, sparking a mini trade war that rattled Midwestern workers. This new demand, like deja vu, only on a far larger scale. Canada's response stunned Washington. Prime Minister Mark Carney and his team acknowledged the need to strengthen their military and promised to meet NATO's 2% GDP target, but only on Canadian terms. Billions are being poured into Arctic surveillance, new drones, naval upgrades, and ammunition stockpiles. But when it came to Trump's ultimatum, Canada drew a firm line. Sovereignty comes first. One word, no, echoed louder than any political statement. This defiance wasn't just symbolic. It sent a message that Canada would invest in defense, yes, but it would not bankroll America's budget shortfalls. Trump had expected compliance. Instead, he got a standoff that made headlines worldwide. The reaction was immediate. US officials scrambled to assess the fallout, wondering how far Canadian resistance could go. And as Canada held its ground, the ripple effects were already beginning to spread, setting the stage for economic shocks and military concerns that would quickly follow. But the story doesn't stop here. What seems like a political clash is really just the opening chapter in a much bigger saga, one that threatens to shake North American defense, global alliances, and even the everyday lives of millions. Canada's refusal to pay didn't just rattle politicians, it sent shockwaves straight into the US economy. Factories that rely on Canadian resources are already feeling the pressure. Rare earths, cobalt, nickel, uranium. These aren't just metals, they power everything from fighter jets to electric cars. When Ottawa said no, uncertainty spread fast. In Ohio, rail plants that transport iron ore started bracing for supply gaps. Union leaders warned that without Canadian shipments, jobs could vanish overnight. It's the same story in Michigan and Oregon, where electronics factories depend on Canadian minerals for production. Managers are preparing for delays, and some are even considering temporary shutdowns. Detroit automakers face potential redesigns for high-performance EV components if nickel and cobalt become scarce. The stakes are high, production schedules tight, and the cost of mistakes is massive. Energy markets are also taking a hit. Nuclear plants and lithium battery producers in Arizona and New Mexico are watching Canadian uranium and lithium closely. Prices have spiked almost immediately, and the ripple effect could hit household bills. That new EV you were planning to buy, it might come with a bigger price tag, gadgets, cars, even power bills. Everyone feels the pinch when raw materials are delayed or suddenly more expensive. And it's not just money, confidence is shaking too. Workers fear layoffs, families worry about rising costs, and anxiety spreads faster than the headlines. US. What started as a foreign policy standoff is now touching everyday life across the US. From factories to kitchen tables, Canadians saying no is having consequences far beyond Ottawa. But this economic disruption is only part of the story. The ripple doesn't stop at dollars and cents. Military and strategic consequences are already emerging, and they may be even more serious than anyone expected. The economic ripple was alarming, but the military stakes were even higher. Canada isn't just a neighbor, it's a critical partner in North American defense. NORAD, the joint US-Canada system monitoring the skies and Arctic, depends on seamless cooperation. For decades, officers have worked side by side, tracking jets, missile launches, and guarding the frozen frontier. When Canada pushed back on Trump's $25 billion demand, alarm bells went off inside the Pentagon. If Ottawa could resist on money, what else might it resist in defense collaboration? The Arctic is a flashpoint. Melting ice is opening new shipping lanes and drawing the attention of rivals like Russia and China. The US has long counted on Canadian cooperation to patrol these vast frozen areas. Even small delays or hesitation in joint missions could leave dangerous gaps in surveillance. And then there's the issue of critical raw materials. Canada supplies nickel, cobalt, uranium, and other essential metals used in precision missiles, fighter jets, and advanced radar systems. Without steady shipments, the Pentagon could face shortages in vital areas, slowing production and potentially leaving defenses vulnerable. Beyond logistics, the standoff sends a psychological shock through US military planning. Allies have long followed American leadership unquestioningly, partly out of respect, partly out of fear of isolation. Canada breaking ranks cracks that perception. Suddenly, the assumption of unwavering control over allies is no longer guaranteed. NATO leaders in Europe are taking note, and discussions about boosting defense spending, pushed even higher than before, are gaining momentum. In short, Canada's stand isn't just about sovereignty, it's reshaping military strategy, exposing vulnerabilities, and signaling a potential shift in North American defense. What started as a financial dispute has now become a test of trust, readiness, and long-standing alliances, raising questions about how far US influence can stretch before cracks appear. Canada's defiance didn't just shake Washington and the Pentagon, it sent a message that reverberated across the globe. Allies and rivals alike were watching closely, trying to read the implications. China and Russia wasted no time spinning the story. Beijing's state media framed it as proof that America's grip on its allies is weakening. Moscow's analysts called it a turning point in US and NATO relations. Whether or not that's entirely true, the symbolism is undeniable. If even Canada can push back, who else might follow? Europe was paying attention too. Brussels has already opened talks with Ottawa about deepening trade on critical minerals, potentially bypassing Washington altogether. Canada's vast reserves of nickel, cobalt, uranium, and rare earths give it leverage over industries of the future, from electric vehicles to clean energy and advanced weapons. By asserting its independence, Canada isn't just protecting sovereignty, it's quietly repositioning itself as a player with global influence. The ripple effect is also psychological. Middle powers like Japan, Australia, and South Korea are balancing ties to Washington with growing ambitions of independence. Seeing Canada take a stand may encourage them to push back when American demands clash with their national interests. The perception of US dominance has always depended not only on military might, but on the belief that resistance is futile. That illusion is cracking. This moment signals a shift in global power dynamics. Allies may quietly follow Canada's lead, rivals may feel emboldened, and the world is watching how America responds. A single act of defiance has reminded everyone that influence is fragile. The rules are changing, and the old assumption that America's allies will always fall in line is no longer certain. Canada's bold refusal wasn't just about $25 billion, it was about sovereignty, leverage, and the shifting balance of global power. By standing firm, Ottawa sent a message that even America's closest allies have limits, and the ripple effects are already being felt, from US factories to military planning and across the world. China, Russia, and Europe are all watching, and middle powers may be inspired to assert their independence too. The real question now is clear. If Canada can push back so openly, who will be next? The era of unquestioned US dominance may be facing its first serious cracks.